Hi, my name is Lindsay and I'm the Administrative and Exhibitions Assistant at Frontline Arts. Aside from doing that, I am also a senior at Kane University where I study printmaking, book arts, and paper making. So today I'm going to be sharing a little bit of knowledge with you and showing you how to do a really fast, fun, and easy accordion book using materials that you already have at home because none of us are really going out to buy art supplies at this moment of time. So if you want to learn how to do that, just watch this video. We're doing an accordion book. I'm going to be doing it hardcover today to show you, but I'm not using traditional bookboard. So what you'll want is some recycled sketchbook covers. This is my old color theory sketchbook, and it's just a nice thick chipboard. So that's what I'm going to be using as covers. I probably won't even need more than one of these, but I have two. Then you're going to be needing a decorative paper or a book cloth to cover your book with. I'm going to be using this paper that I hand marbled at a class at Frontline Arts. You're going to need a long sheet of paper. It doesn't have to be very tall, very wide. I'm going to be making the book pretty small. For mine, I'm going to be using from a roll of paper, and this is just washi paper. You can use any type of paper. You just want it to be relatively long. Then what you're going to want is glue. I'm going to be using traditional PVA book glue, which I put most of into this little Tupperware container so I can actually dip my brush into it. Then you're going to want a brush to use with the glue. This is a brush I got on Amazon, but you could also use just like a big paintbrush like this. Then you're going to want an Exacto blade to cut both the board and paper. And the last thing that you're going to need is a bone folder. And if you don't have a bone folder, you could use just the edge of something, the edge of a ruler. It's not really delicate, super intricate folding, so you can really get away with anything that'll allow you to get a nice crisp edge on a fold. So once you get all your materials together, get started. So I have a cutting mat covering my desk surface just because my desk surface is white, and also I'm going to be doing cutting, but I normally have something covering my desk at all times just for when I'm doing art. And now I'm going to guesstimate the amount of paper that I want to use to make my accordion book. And again, this does not need to be very super long. I'm making a small book, and this isn't an exact science because we're just doing this more. We're just making a simple accordion book. This isn't a super intricate bookbinding where you need to be doing all these precise and intense measurements. So let me just grab a ruler. So once I decide about how long I want my book to be, I am just going to trim it using a ruler and an Exacto blade, which is where the cutting mat comes in handy. And this paper is super thin, super easy to cut through. Keep my fingers away from the blade. Probably should cut away from myself. There we go. So now we have a relatively nice long piece. Let's see. Let me give you guys a measurement of how long this actually is. My piece of paper here is right about 30 inches wide. But I want my book to be a little bit smaller than this. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my folding. So first what I'm going to do, I'm going to meet those two edges. I made sure I cut my paper square. That's what the cutting mat is helpful for. So now I'm just using that bone folder to get a nice crisp edge. I'm going to unfold it. You can see that crisp center line. I'm going to meet this one in at the center. So now we have those two fold. Okay. I could leave it there and make this super big book, but I'm going to keep going with my folding because I want a tiny book. I'm going to unfold. See, with this type of paper, you don't even need a bone folder because it's so thin. This is where it gets tricky. I need to make sure I'm doing everything on the other side that I'm doing to this side. I'm not going to use the bone folder for that one. For this fold, you don't really want to like crumple and fold this way because you're not going to get it super accurate. So you can see all the folds I have so far. I have all those folds on the side, but those two big sheets still need to get folded. So now I'm going to meet this fold to this fold. It's probably easier this way. Okay. Yeah, don't even need the bone folder with this paper. Do this one. Awesome. What I'm doing is I'm kind of squishing it to go in the direction that the accordion would actually go into. Almost like making a fan. So here's what I have so far. Basically a fan. It's an accordion. I do not want this super long, skinny book. So I'm going to have this nice and flat. I'm going to measure where the half is. So this is 11 inches tall. So 5.5 would be the halfway point. Of course, I cleaned off my desk. And by cleaned, I mean pushed it all off to one side. I'm going to measure the 5.5 point. Comes in handy having the ruler on my cutting mat. Key here is to not try to go through all of the layers at once. We're just cutting. I have those 2 little points. Taking my Exacto blade. And I'm trimming. Gently but firmly enough that I cut. But just making sure I'm not trying to bully the paper into going through all those layers at once. Okay, so now we basically have 2 book blocks. So I can make 2 separate accordion books with each of these, which I will. Or I could technically make it very long and attach each of these sheets, but I don't think I will. I'm just going to keep it as a separate text block. So now we get to make the covers using the measurements from our little text block. So this could be different from everyone, but I will be giving you the measurement to turn this measurement into your text block measurement. Just get a little post-it note so I can write, oops, hand sanitizer, precious resource. And I'm going to write down my measurements for this text block. So we know one of them is 5.5, and 5.5 is the spine. See? 5.5 by 4 7/8. Oh my gosh, that's such a pet peeve of mine. I did 1 in decimals and 1 in fraction. Focus. This is our spine measurement, and then this is the sides. For the spine measurement, we're adding essentially 1/8 onto the top and to the bottom. So we're adding 1/4, because 2/8 is 1/4. For 3 7/8 side, outward, we're only adding 1/8 because the spines will sit essentially flush together. Top and bottom, you add 1/8 and 1/8, and then you ignore the spine and only add 1/8 there. And this is nice because now it's coming out to 5 3/4 by 4 inches. So those are my measurements for my book covers. So now I'm only going to need one of these covers, thankfully. Any nice thick chipboard. If you have bookboard or chipboard, that works too. I'm just trying to repurpose this. So now I'm going to measure, better off doing this on the white side so I can actually see. 5 3/4 by 4, and we're gonna obviously need 2 of these. So 5 3/4, just about there. And I'm a printmaker, so I always do the 3 measurements. 5 3/4, much more simple. 5 3/4. Awesome. So that way, we can then line up the ruler, and we can see that all our measurements are accurate. Not that our ruler gets all wonky. So I'm just gonna take my handy dandy Exacto. It'd be much easier if I had a box cutter. And I am going to trim along all of these lines. And this could take me forever, so I will come back to you when I have those 2 lines cut. So now I have my 2 covers. Well, my 2. I did the first cut. So now we have to measure the 4-inch mark. And I ended up switching to a box cutter because that flimsy Exacto blade was not... This chipboard laughed at my Exacto blade. It laughed. Alright. So now I'm measuring 4 inches, and I'm going to measure towards this end. So that, obviously that end goes bye-bye. We don't want that. Oh, actually, I don't even need this half. I can get both out of this one. We are resourceful. We have an entire other book cover over there. 4. Yay. And now I'm going to cut this and be right back. I now have 2 little covers. Very exciting, and I have an entire another piece for the other block if I want to make it. So now what we're going to do is we are going to paste these covers. I have my 2 covers, which I'm now going to glue. So now's the time where you need your book glue, your cover paper, or book cloth, whatever, and your brush. I have my cover paper, and I'm going to glue the brown side down because I don't want the white paper to show through the brown on the other part of it. And now you want to leave about 1/2 inch in. So it's about, each cover sheet to cover your book is about 1/2 inch in from your book, so you get that nice little edge. So I'm gonna measure that real quick. So the easiest way for me to do this right now is I'm just putting my book corner flush to the corner of this, and I'm adding an inch, and cutting that. Now I'm just gonna there we have one. We have 2 covers, cover boards, and 2 cover sheets. So now I'm going to take my handy dandy PVA glue. If you don't have PVA, you could also use the glue stick. Now I'm just taking a scrap piece of palette paper, so I have something to put my glue on. Gonna get a decent amount of glue on my brush and just fully cover my book board. Not too much, otherwise things get messy. Center that right on your cover sheet. And really burnish that to be sure that there's no air bubbles, no glue bubbles. Sometimes I even just like to take my handy dandy bone folder in any spots that really aren't sitting down. So then you have a cover sheet pasted. Can't see because white on white. Do the next one. You can see where my paper marbling kind of got a little sloppy. Get some glue. After we're done pasting everything, you really want to wash this brush. Squish. So that's on there. So our next step, I'm going to put that sheet, don't get rid of that palette paper sheet yet. And we have to do this fast because I don't want the glue drying on my brush. But the next thing that you have to do is you have to cut these excess corners off. You have to cut this at a 45-degree angle to the paper. I bought for $1 this 3-pack of little corner cutters, so you get the spacing right, on eBay. Assuming most people wouldn't have them, so just do your best that you can to measure that out. And I'm just going to take my Exacto blade, measure that up, and that's what it should look like. This is just a tool I bought because I found this to be really tedious and I can never get it right. If you have a 3D printer, the glue drying, I have ruined many a brush. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my edges just to kind of score them so that when it comes time to pasting it's easier. This is kind of an extra step that not everybody does, but I do just because I find it easier. Now I'm going to take my brush and just glue on these edges. I'm trying not to gain glue on that outside because you will see it. So that's why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. Okay, so now I'm going to fold these edges over. Use the handy dandy bone folder. You will have excess glue. Burnish. Don't burnish too hard or you will tear it. Okay, so now I have one cover. It's pasted. So beautiful. Very ghost ectoplasm. That's what I would call that. Okay, attempt not to get too much glue again. Do another one. I love to make books when I'm binging TV shows. My favorite thing to just put on. I love to have something on the background. Obviously I don't right now. Okay, so I have my 2 covers. Normally at this point in a bookbinding project, I would put the covers under in my little handmade book press, but not right now because right now I'm going to attach my book block. I'm going to attach my book block and you have to decide which side you want to be the spine. So I want those 2 to be the spine. Okay. And what you're going to do, we're going to be gluing that edge of the first one to that spine. So I want this edge to be flush with this edge and then center it the rest of the way. So that on this side, it'll look like that. See why I wanted the white to be on this side? Because I knew it was going to show through. Attempting to keep the rest of my book block in correct order. Undented, clean. Fresh glue. My glue is starting to dry on my brush. Just getting a nice even thin layer. This paper is very fragile. So if I oversaturate it with glue, it will rip. Okay? Try to keep your hands as glue-free as possible. Also easier said than done. Move my book block over. This is the tricky part that I really don't like. Okay. She's on. She has a few ripples. She's not perfectly centered. Oh, that looks nice. I like this paper. So this means the book is going to open this way. Didn't really end up getting anything on it. What I'm going to do is actually just center. Because that last one wasn't perfect. So it's just easier to do that way. My gosh. There you go. You can fill it with content. What I would recommend, before you do anything else, you can sit here, you can admire your beautiful book. You can plan all the fun content you're going to put in it. But before anything else, you need to take some wax paper, freezer paper, it doesn't matter, and you need to press your book. It doesn't need to be, I do mine overnight just because that's what I found to be a nice sweet spot, but I'm just cutting 2 pieces because so I have my 2 pieces of freezer paper. Actually, okay. You need to take 2 pieces of wax paper and put them between your cover and the rest of the book block. And the reason you need to do this is because when you press it, that glue could seep through and glue your whole book together. And now what you're going to do is you want to go put this under some heavy books. I have a little handmade book press that's just 2 cutting boards with nuts and bolts together. I kind of squeeze it together. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go put it in overnight and then I will be taking it out tomorrow. But essentially you are all done. You have a nice hardcover accordion book, nice little sketchbook. You could block print in it using little stamps. You could write in it. I love to draw with these using alcohol markers because it bleeds through the other side and then it's like both sides of the page have content. You could collage in it. It all depends on the type of paper you use and what your goal is, but I hope you guys have fun playing with different variations of these, and let me know if there are any other types of books you want to learn how to make, and I'd be happy to do them. So thank you for watching and stay safe everybody. Bye.